Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how I prepare for interviews in finance, and I'll let you know some websites that I look at, what to look for on the company's websites, and some other tips that I generally use when I'm applying for jobs. I hope you will find it helpful, and let's crack on. So to start off with, I'll probably give an introduction about myself for those of you who haven't watched any of my other videos. So I studied economics. I went to University of Kent. I got a 2-1. I did have some internship experience while I was at university. I interned at Royal Bank of Canada for 3 years. If you want to know how I got that job or how I got that internship, you can look at the cards. I'll link it here, and you can go watch my other YouTube video about my career story, and I explain everything there. So I interned for 3 years. I then graduated and I got an entry-level job. So I didn't get on any graduate schemes. I decided to take the entry-level job path instead, and I worked at the FCA. I was on a fixed-term contract and I worked in consumer credit. So I didn't stay at the FCA very long, maybe 3 months or so. I then moved to Coutts, which is like the Queen's Bank essentially. It's part of RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, and I worked there for almost 2 years. And then after that I moved to a Big 4 company. I don't like to say the name because otherwise I'm going to give away something that I said in a different video. But yeah, I worked in one of the Big 4 companies as a consultant. I did that for 1 year. I didn't like it. You can go to watch my other video to hear a bit more about it, but yeah, essentially I didn't like it. And then I went to Fitch Ratings, so I literally work there currently, but I've just got a new job, so I'll be leaving there shortly. But yeah, I worked at Fitch, and then that's one of the big 3 credit rating agencies, in case anybody didn't know. So there's Moody's, Standard & Poor's and Fitch. Those are the top 3. So I worked there. And then now, currently, I'm going to a real estate advisors company, but then I'll be seconded in Morgan Stanley. So essentially, my next role, I'll be going to Morgan Stanley or working in Morgan Stanley. Alright, now let's get into the tips and what I think you should do as a recent graduate or even somebody with just minimal experience in finance. These are the things that I essentially do to prepare, or did in the past to prepare, depending on my level of experience. So firstly, if you're quite junior, a lot of the time they want to know that you're actually interested in the market. So you know something about finance, you understand the way it works, you know what's going on in the world around you, current events, things like that. And I find that a lot of recent graduates, they tend to pick the most obvious subject. And obviously, if you're very knowledgeable about Bitcoin, that's great, but they're probably going to see hundreds of applications talking about that, so you're not going to stand out, you're not going to be original. And what I found is, if you go on Finimize, I'll put their logo here or something like that, or their website here, and they'll send you an email every morning with the most recent finance news. So if you go on their website, I can see that they call it the 5-minute daily update. Get the download on the day's top financial stories and what they mean for you. So they'll explain it in great detail, why it impacts you, what it's all about, and essentially you'll have a greater understanding in order to talk about that in an interview, or even write about it if you have an interview question in an application or something like that. So essentially all I'm saying is you should be quite original in your thinking, and that way your application will stand out from the crowd. The second thing I would say to do is pick apart the job description. So in the job description, they're going to give you duties as well as skills that they require in order to be successful in the role. You're going to pick apart each skill and try and demonstrate where you've done some of the duties that they've listed. So if you can give examples in previous jobs, or even from university, or maybe in societies that you've been a part of, so you can show them that you are able to fulfill this role to your best ability. And if you don't have any examples of when you've completed any of those tasks, you have to show your eagerness to learn, and that can also be demonstrated in other ways. Maybe from university, maybe you can give them examples of things that you've done to show that you are diligent and hardworking. those type of examples will get you far, or at least show that though you don't have the experience, you can learn and you're very quick to learn and pick things up. So that way you won't need as much training, because they will offer you training if they believe you're going to pick it up fast and you are going to be an asset to their team. They'll still offer you the job. So thirdly, what I would say you need to do is go on the company's website, browse the About Us page, look at anything you can see about their culture and their values, just so you can drop a few words in as you're speaking to the recruiter or whoever's interviewing you, to say that you have done your research. Number 4, you need to know your CV inside out. I can't tell you how many times somebody has asked me something that I did maybe 3 years ago and I can't really remember it, and I'm like, oh shoot, I should have probably read over my CV again. So make sure you know everything that's on it, because sometimes people can be real douchebags and ask you something from years ago that you may not remember. So you need to know everything on your CV just to be safe. Number 5 is really optional. You don't have to do this. This is something that I picked up in more recent years. So I usually go on whoever's interviewing me's LinkedIn page and I look at their history, their job history, maybe how long they've been at the company. Sometimes people have particular interests as well, and they'll like a lot of articles relating to the same thing. So I know recently I had one where a particular lady really enjoyed women's empowerment networks and things like that, so I could talk to her a lot about being a female, and I know that's something that she would definitely relate to. And when you build a rapport with your interviewer, they're more likely to like you even if you can't answer a question. So it's really good to make sure they actually like you as a person, and then that way you can get away with more stuff really. If you make any errors, if you trip up on many questions, they're more likely to let it slide because they like you personally. And then in terms of job history, if they've moved around the company a lot, the same company, then you can ask them what it was like to work in different departments, what's kept them in the company so long, what's so great about the culture, or what would they say is the best thing about the culture in the company. And yeah, just essentially ask. People like to talk about themselves basically, so if you get them to speak about themselves, it's more likely again that they'll build a rapport with you and they'll like you as a person. Lastly, you must ask questions. I don't care. I know some people say, oh, sometimes they've covered all the questions within the interview, so you might not have any questions. You will have a question. There's something that you can ask them, whether it's about themselves and their job history, like I mentioned before, or about the company, or their opinion on something that's going on in finance. You can ask a question. You just need to show that you're interested and you're eager. So some questions that I usually ask are, what's the progression like in the company? With COVID, I asked them how COVID has affected their business. Another question that I would ask is, do you have any reservations about me? Now that one is a tricky one. Some people don't like to ask that, but I personally do ask in certain circumstances. If I feel like the interview hasn't gone the best, or I've tripped up in some questions, then this is your chance to reel it back. Like, this is your last saving grace basically. If you ask them if they have any reservations about you, then they can say, oh, I don't think you're quite knowledgeable enough in this area, and then maybe you can show them that you are. Maybe if your answer is good enough, they'll still decide to take a chance on you just because you've asked them that question and you've cleared up some of their doubts. So yeah, those are my top tips. That's how I prepare for interviews in finance. If you have any other questions, then feel free to leave them down below. Unfortunately, I didn't do many assessment centres. Like I said, I didn't go for any grad schemes. So if they're relating to assessment centres or psychometric tests or anything like that, numerical reasoning tests, I'm not the person. Honestly, I haven't had a job since university that's required me to take a numerical reasoning test, so unfortunately I can't help you on that. But maybe if you guys start a conversation in the comments, there might be some people who are actually really good at them. So yeah. Okay, so if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Don't forget to subscribe and press the notification button. Also, you can check me out on Instagram at Tenny Honey, or if you are interested in property, it's at Tenny Honey Home. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Until the next one.